Hi, I'm Gareth Evans. I'm a retired physics teacher, a pastor, a missionary, and itinerant for many years, traveling and speaking at youth conferences and pastors' conferences in many parts of the world. As I look back over my long life, I see so many stepping stones where God placed before me to direct me into walking into His will. I never saw them ahead of me, but I see many of them as I look back. And I'd like to share some of those stepping stones with you. Join me on this journey as I tell some of my stories. God bless you. After 2 very enjoyable years in Hong Kong, 1967 to 69, teaching with the British forces, I decided to return to Wales, and Anne and I and our 3 little girls returned to our homeland. We went to stay with Anne's mother and father in West Wales, while the tenants of our home in Bridgend were completing their term. 1 week or so before the beginning of the school year, I telephoned the Bridgend Education Board concerning my 3 daughters. I said, I have these 3 little girls, they due to register in the infant school. Should I register them here in West Wales for what will only be a week or so in school, or should I wait until I arrive in Bridgend 10 days' time? Young woman on the phone said, it'll be fine, so just wait until you come to Bridgend, there's no problem, just you don't need to register them down there. And I thanked her, and I'm about to put the phone down, and she said, excuse me, sir, are you Mr. Evans? I said, yes. I hadn't given her my name, and from Hong Kong? I said, yes. Oh, Mr. Evans, she said, Ogmore Grammar School has a position waiting for you. But I said, I wrote to them, and they said that the position was filled. Well, I don't know, but they've got a position waiting for you. They've been waiting for you to come home. Very surprised, and so she said, can you go to Cardiff and get a medical tomorrow and then maybe go to the school? I said, yes, certainly. So the next day I went and had a medical, and I journeyed up to Ogmore Grammar School, which is about 8 miles up the valley from Bridgend. The headmaster greeted me warmly, and he took me to the physics lab. And I said, oh, just a moment, sir. I said, how long is this position for? I said, if I'm only just filling in for a couple of weeks, I'm really not interested because I'm getting full salary until Christmas. British Army's policy was if you applied from Hong Kong and you got 3 refusals, then you would be guaranteed full salary for a full term. So enable you well back in Britain to be looking for work. And I had done that, and Ogmore was one of the schools I'd got a refusal from. The headmaster said, oh no, so he said, when we got your application, we wanted to appoint you, but we're not allowed to appoint from overseas. And so we told all the other applicants the position was filled, and we waited for you to come back home. Which is pretty risky of them. After all, I could have taken up another position in the meantime. He said, no, the position is yours permanently. So I thanked him, and I began my career as the head of the physics department at Ogmore Grammar School. I enjoyed that school. It was a good experience. At the same time, I was running a youth work in the neighbouring town. Our lives were very full and very blessed, and I enjoyed it. 5 years into my time there was a new school going to be built at the foot of our valley. A new comprehensive school that was going to incorporate our school and 2 other schools from up the valleys. And we were a little perturbed because none of us were being consulted concerning this new school. For example, as a physics teacher, I would have liked to have had a say in the physics lab. Do I have gas taps on top of the table, or do I have them under the table? How many cupboards do I want? What place? I didn't have any say in this, and all the other teachers felt the same way about their departments. And so we decided to form a staff association. A staff association would represent us to the Board of Education concerning this new school, so we would have a say in its development. And so one afternoon we gathered at one of the other schools in the valley for a meeting of about 70 teachers, chaired by the deputy headmaster of my school, Mr. Winston Rees. He said, I call for nominations for the president of the newly formed staff association. The man said, I nominate John Williams. Do you have a second? Yes. John, you're willing to accept? Yes. I nominate Mary Thomas. Mary, do you have a second? Will you? Yes. Then somebody said, I nominate Gareth Evans. To my surprise, genuine surprise, if you'd asked me what the possibilities were of me becoming a president, I would have said medium at the best. I wasn't one of the valley boys. I had never been educated in that valley. I wasn't one of the socialites from the schools, and yet I was the one nominated. Immediately, John Williams and Mary Thomas both said, can we withdraw our nomination? We'd like to support Gareth. And so I became the only nominee. And so after a little while longer, Winston called for more. There were no other nominations. And he said, okay, well, Gareth's the only nomination, all in favour, and unanimously elected to be the president of the new association, to my surprise. Winston then said, Gareth, come and take the chair. There's another matter on the agenda. Up until that time, every secondary school in Britain had a board of governors, and that was all our local dignitaries, plus the headmaster of the school would sit, and they were the ones who employed you, who appointed you, who interviewed you, your conditions of work, etc. They were the ones who laid all that out. But there was never on those boards, on the board of governors, an active teacher. But the British government that year had passed a law saying that every board of governors had to have an active teacher from the school on the board of governors. And so this is our first time where we're going to pick a representative from the school to be on the board of governors. So Winston said, would you chair the meeting, Gareth? So I got there and I called for nominations. And somebody immediately said, I nominate Gareth Evans. And I said, hold on, are you nominating me as the president of the Staff Association, meaning that every president will automatically become, because the length of terms may not be the same? He said, no, I'm nominating you just as you are. Okay, you have a second? Yes. Somebody else? Any other nominations? There was silence, and after me trying to persuade, find another nomination, nobody else would be nominated. Man called for the closing of the nominations, and again I was elected unanimously, very much to my surprise. And walking back across the field with Alan Dugan, the geography teacher, to my car, which is parked at my own school, I'm saying to Alan, who was one of my friends, the group of friends I had become close to, I said, did you guys set this up? I had no idea that this was happening. I had no idea that I'd be elected president and on to the board of governors. Did you set this all up? I said, no. I said, my wife will never believe me. She's not going to believe this. And Alan turned, he grabbed hold of my lapels in the middle of the rugby field as we were walking diagonally across it, and he said, what's the matter with you? Don't you realise? We all know that you're the only one that we can always trust to speak the truth. I drove down the valley that night on my way home, singing at the top of the voice, worshipping the Lord, that my testimony was such that everybody knew that I would always speak the truth. I tell you that story not to glorify myself, but because it's very, very important in the plan of God for what was going to happen in future years, as you will see later in a future story. God is already planning my future right there at this time with these two positions as President of the Staff Association and the representation on the Board of Governors.